Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. I'm sorry it's been a while since I uploaded a video. I originally had plans to upload a video for Tanya, but that got pushed to the side once Altina demoted. So I started making a video on that, but then the FEH channel dropped over the weekend, and so Altina got pushed to the side so that I could make a video on that. But now that's getting pushed to the side as well because the new Tempest Trials event is about to start, and I have to talk about the new free unit that we're about to get. Silque. Silque is getting her new in-game out as a cavalry healer, and oh my god, the artwork on this banner looks so good! While I'm sure many would agree that the FEH channel overall was incredibly divisive and controversial, I can definitely say that one of the best parts of that channel was the beautiful artwork shown for the new units on this month's Valentine's banner. That being said, let's take a look and see what Silque's got packing. At 5 stars, level 40, Silque's neutral stats read as HP 40, Attack 28, Speed 22, Defense 32, and Resistance 29. And obligatory disclaimer, because Silque is a Tempest Trial unit, she will be locked to neutral stats. Meaning, we don't have boons that can help us patch that low attack of hers. Yikes. Getting a new mount really took a toll on her stats. As a point of reference, let me pull up OG Silque's stats so that you can compare. She gained 1 HP, which is kinda negligible, and then lost 5 attack, which is kind of a big deal. Healers are especially dependent on their attack stat in order to maximize their healing output, so having such low attack, especially on a new unit, is kind of rough. We will of course have to patch this up in our builds. Moving forward, Silque also loses 1 speed, which isn't that bad. OG Silque was already slow to begin with, so this doesn't really change anything. It just means that Silque will continue to get doubled when in combat. In defense, Silque continues her downward trajectory and loses 3 points here, and for resistance, she loses 2. She's definitely still fairly bulky, but my god, her stats really suffered in order to make her a cavalry unit. It's a give and take, that's for sure. Having 3 movement on a healer is fantastic and makes it easier for her to tend to her allies. Unfortunately though, unlike other healers like Brave Veronica, who got tricked out with a bunch of crazy effects and stats right from the start, we've got to pull from our available resources to see how best we can help Silque shine. Anyway, let's keep it moving and take a look at her weapon, as I think it does a really good job at defining her new role. Silque comes with the Rapport Wand, an inheritable staff with 12 might. It grants +5 attack and defense to the ally with the highest speed every turn. Oh my god, the highest speed? Do y'all know what this means? This means that everyone with a Celica, a Merida, an Alm, a Larce, or a Shannon just got access to an incredibly easy buff. For those of you who don't know, this weapon is very similar to Winter Erica's Joyous Lantern, which grants +5 defense and resistance to the ally with the highest attack on the team. Very similar effects, although this one helps beef up the fastest ally on your team. And like with any opening skills, it has the potential to beef up the entire team if everyone somehow manages to have the same base speed, which is a bit harder to do than with base attack, but still possible. My goodness. This is a great support-oriented weapon and very nice fodder. Now, moving on, for her assist, Silque comes with Martyr, which restores an ally's HP equal to the damage that's already been dealt to Silque, plus 50% of her attack. It also has the added effect of recovering Silque's HP equal to half the damage he's already taken. Quite a few formulas here. I know that some healers can make really good use of Martyr, particularly some of the more speedy staff users, as they can take some damage, avoid a follow-up attack, and then recover a lot of HP in return. However, I personally think that Martyr is a bit too conditional for Silque, for my taste. I'd prefer something a bit more consistent, so I'll elaborate more on some alternatives once we get to our build. For her special, Silque comes with Heavenly Light. It has a cooldown cost of 2, and when it activates, it restores 10 HP to all allies regardless of their distance. Not bad. It's definitely a decent skill to have, and given Silque's low base attack, a solid way to increase her healing output. Jumping to her B slot, Silque comes with Live to Serve, which is one of my personal favorite skills for healers. When healing others, it allows Silque to recover her own HP equal to the same amount she restores to her target ally. I slapped this on my Brave Veronica ages ago and never looked back. Easily one of the best ways to keep your healer alive without the need for gimmicky skills like Martyr. No offense. Alright, and lastly we've got Speed Opening 3, which grants +6 speed to the ally with the most speed on your team, regardless of where they are on the map. And much like her staff's effect, this effect can be applied to multiple units so long as they all have the same speed. Starting to see a pattern here. Alright, and that is it for her base kit. She's actually got some pretty nice fodder for anyone that's looking to pimp out their healer. Live to Serve might be preferred as an S skill so that your B slot is free to run Wrathful Staff or Dazzling Staff, but it's still nice to have. Her staff is going to be especially useful for any of you guys that are interested in providing more support to your speedsters, your Blade Tome users, or anyone with bonus doubler. There's quite a lot of potential there. So now that that's done, let's finally start building her up. As usual, we've got a free-to-play friendly budget build to get us started. The intent behind this build is to have Silque provide as much bonus support as possible without having to engage in combat. And so, as you can see, we are keeping her native staff, which synergizes perfectly with speed opening, and so you'll notice that we kept that too. So far, we're looking at +6 speed, +5 attack, and +5 defense to the ally with the highest speed. The only thing we're missing now is some res support, which is why we've added res tactics as her S slot. Unfortunately, res opening isn't available as a sacred seal, so we had to make do with what we've got. Res Tactic is a great skill that grants +6 resistance to any allies within a 2-tile radius, so long as there aren't more than 2 units of the same movement type. It's a very easy condition to meet if you like mixed movement types on a team, and is a fantastic way to provide some res to whatever unit it is that Silque is supporting. Speaking of which, it's important to keep in mind who you partner her up with. Blade Tome users like Nino are going to have an absolute field day with how many buffs can be produced from Silque alone. Anyone that's got bonus doubler will benefit greatly from these out-of-combat buffs, as well because their bonuses will be, well, doubled, in case that wasn't obvious. And needless to say, units like Larcy and Marita would absolutely love this additional support, so just keep that in mind when building Silque up. Speaking of bonus skills, let's go back to her assist skill and talk about that. I got rid of Martyr and replaced it with Restore Plus. In some cases, I would prefer to use Recover Plus instead, which recovers HP equal to 50% of Silque's attack plus 10. The skill is guaranteed to always heal a minimum of 15 HP each time, which ain't bad. It's what OG Silque comes with, and it's what I run on my Brave Veronica, making for some very good, consistent healing output. However, if we take a look at Restore Plus, we'll see that it also restores HP equal to 50% of Silque's attack. But instead of adding that plus 10, it neutralizes penalties and negative status effects as well. This is important. Silque's kit is designed around providing as many bonuses to the fastest ally, or allies, on her team. However, all it takes is a sudden panic from a tummy ache Corrin to undermine all of that. And so to combat this, we've got a healing assist that neutralizes these status effects to help ensure that our allies are benefiting from our Spectrum buff at all times. For this reason, we are also keeping Heavenly Light as her special, as it will continue to provide some healing support to all of her teammates every time it activates. I would normally prefer a Balm skill for most of my healers, but considering we're already providing so much bonus support thanks to our weapon, speed opening, and res tactic, a Balm skill really might not be necessary. They're a little bit more expensive too as fodder goes, so I don't know that we need that for this build. And lastly, this brings us to her A slot, which is fairly flexible. Since our build is largely support oriented, I thought to prioritize her bulk via defense and resistance bond 3. Healers will naturally want to stay close to their allies, and having this skill will help her tank through some oncoming magic attacks especially. I'd ordinarily have preferred a push skill, but seeing as how defense and resistance push 4 isn't in the game just yet, I'll have to hold off on that one for now. Okay, and the last detail that's not clearly visible on screen is her weapon refine. I'm opting for a Wrathful Staff refine just because I prefer that Silque avoid combat. With this build, she wants to support her allies, but from afar. I don't plan to have her initiate combat, but rather, Wrathful Staff should give her a fighting chance should she be singled out by any oncoming threats. Okay, and that pretty much wraps things up for our budget build. Let's switch gears and try to whip up a more expensive build for her. So I don't build very many healers, but I am working on a Mercedes right now on my alternate account. And so the build I have for you guys is loosely based off the build I'm crafting for her. Fortified Defense and Resistance 3 is a cornerstone for this build. I think that with this skill, Silque can regain her previous role of functioning as a very sturdy wall, especially for oncoming magic attacks. It does hinder her base attack by 2 points, and so in an effort to fix this, I brought in Restore, which we of course talked about in our last build. The increased healing output should definitely make up for the -2 attack. For her Sacred Seal, my OCD kicked in and I wanted her resistance to match her defense, so I threw in Res +3. It's pretty self-explanatory, but Silque would definitely welcome any improvements to her bulk. For her weapon, I decided to run the Grand Scratcher Plus, which is a fairly exclusive weapon that can only be found on Hot Springs Sakura, whose banner is conveniently running right now. The Grand Scratcher is a really awesome support-based staff that grants 1 special charge to the ally with the highest attack on the team. It's very nice, and I'm hoping to drop some orbs on that Hot Springs banner later next week to snag me that staff. And much like our last build, I'm gonna stick with the Wrathful Staff Refine. For her special, I decided to add in Firefled Balm Plus. Like I mentioned previously, I'm a big fan of Balm skills, and this one in particular grants +6 attack and resistance to all allies. While there are other Balms I prefer, it makes the most sense to use this one as it can also be inherited from Sakura, so 2 for 1. For her B slot, I decided to keep Live to Serve, just because it's an easy way to keep herself alive. As for Silque's C skill, this slot is fairly flexible. I wasn't sure that her resistance was high enough to run a ploy skill, so I figured Hone Cavalry might be a safe option should anyone be interested in throwing her on a cavalry emblem team. Again, this slot is super flexible though, so feel free to take liberties. Alright, and that is it for this last build. It's another support-oriented build, but thanks to her A slot, she comes a little closer to the level of bulk that her infantry self is capable of. The staff, by the way, is incredibly flexible, so feel free to change that up too, of course. Since she's got the bulk to take some hits, staffs like Fear, Gravity, or Slow might be really fun for her to constantly debuff the enemy. Just, throwing some ideas out there, of course. Anyway, lastly, here are her stats when merged up. As a reminder, it takes 2,700 grails to +10 her, assuming you keep the 2 free copies we get through Tempest Trials. While I certainly don't see myself building her up, I know a lot of people love Silque, and she's a really popular character from Shadows of Valentia. That being said, if you've already started building her up, feel free to share your ideas down in the comments below. Building staff users are always a challenge for me, so I would love to hear what you guys did with her. Anyway, that is it for today's video. Again, I apologize for how late this is and how long it's been since my last video. There's a lot going on in the game right now, and between work, trying to get enough sleep, and real life, I'm honestly kind of overwhelmed. I should hopefully be getting a few more videos out within the next few days, as I've got a few to finish up before the 3 Houses DLC drops next week. I might be doing a Let's Play series for the Ashen Wolves, so I'm trying to get ready for that too. In the meantime though, I hope you're enjoying the anniversary event, and best of luck with Tempest Trials. Thank you so much for watching everybody, and take care. Have a good one.